Hello, my name's Joga Conga and this is a video for elt-training.com. This month we're going to look at another one of the CELTA assignments, and that's the lessons from the classroom assignment. The first thing, as always with these assignments, is to make sure that you read your centre's rubric carefully. There are guidelines laid out, but each centre writes its own rubric, so they might be slightly different from centre to centre. So do make sure that you read what you're supposed to do very carefully and ask your tutor if you're not sure. So let's start with this question again. What does this task ask you to do? Well, in lots of ways, this is the most straightforward assignment of the four that you have to do for CELTA. And it's the one that most people have the least trouble with, to be perfectly honest. But in lots of ways, it's actually perhaps the most important because it really impacts on what you will do in the future, I think. So what it asks you to do is to reflect, to draw a line under what you've done and to think back on it and to reflect on your teaching practice. This is something that will really help you to continue to develop as a teacher. So at the moment you've got a very limited amount of teaching and you've had somebody, probably quite a lot of people, in the back of the room watching you, which isn't necessarily very comfortable, and you might be thinking, hooray, hooray, I'm going to have a chance now to be in the classroom just with my learners. But actually having feedback can be really helpful, and if you don't have feedback from other people, then what will help you to continue to develop is to have a good sense of self-awareness, of knowing what's going on in your classes so that you can change it if needs be. Teaching's a long road, and this is something that will really help you to continue to develop and to change and to get better as you go along that road. So this is an example of a cycle of reflection. These sort of things are quite common and there's various different models. I'm not going to go into those now, but this is sort of a typical one in that you do something, you have an experience, you teach, you do something in the classroom. The first step, of course, is to observe what you do. You have to have a good idea of what it is you're actually doing. And, that can be quite a challenge in itself. What you think you're doing might not be what you actually do. So there's, a good reason sometimes to record yourself. Maybe video record yourself. If that feels a bit too tricky, then audio record yourself. Once you know what you're doing, you've got to then reflect on that. What actually were you doing? Why? What happened? What could be different in the future? So reflecting on your observation is really important. And then, of course, that has an impact on what you plan for your future teaching, which gives you more experience. So that's the way that it continues, and that's the way that you continue to improve year on year and not do the same thing and make the same kind of mistakes perhaps, or just have the same kind of experience. Change is always good, I think. So you're asked mainly to reflect on your own teaching practice. What is it that you've done in your teaching practice? But you're also asked to reflect on your observation of experienced teachers. You will have had 6 hours of observation, so you need to think about the things that you saw them do, particularly in relation to your teaching practice as well. And also, of course, the observation of your peers. You've seen a lot of other people teach, and that will probably have impacted on what you do too. It is important that you look at both sides of the coin. Inevitably, you'll have done some things really well and learnt things quickly, or maybe started off quite strong in some areas. And, of course, there'll be areas that you need to work on. So you need to have a look at a balance of both things. You might be thinking, well, what possible areas are there? What sort of things could I look at? Your centre's rubric might ask you to choose, for example, 4 areas to look at. It's not uncommon. But you might think, well, what am I going to look at? As I say, you need a balance of the things you were good at and maybe the things that, you need to work on. Possible areas might be classroom management. So it could be language grading, particularly at lower levels. You know, how easy did you find that? Did you improve? Setting up tasks effectively, giving instructions. These things will be important at both levels, but particularly at the lower levels that you've taught probably. Planning for learner-centred opportunities and finding the right balance between teacher talking time and student talking time. These are areas which people often find problematic, so that might be something you want to reflect on. It might be more to do with language, teaching language. So this could be presenting language, either grammar or vocabulary. How easy did you find that? How did you learn? What did you see from other teachers that helped you to learn? This might be, for example, clarifying meaning, concept checking questions, eliciting form and how you taught that most effectively, working with pronunciation perhaps. So all of these areas would be useful. Correction is another important area that you might want to think about. Is this spoken or is it written? Was it on the spot? Was it delayed? All of these kind of things would be useful areas to look at. Dealing with learners' questions, possibly especially at higher levels where they've got more questions to ask perhaps. How did you deal with that? Did you improve in that? Anticipating problems maybe in your planning beforehand. Dealing with emergent language, things that come up in class that maybe you didn't expect, but that will be important because the learners want to know them. It might be skills-based, developing receptive skills. So of course by that we mean reading and listening, or it might be developing productive skills, writing, speaking. So again, how did you go about this? How did your practice improve over the course in these areas? You also need to consider how you will continue to develop after the course. So you need to think about what you're going to do. So far you've had a lot of people in the back watching you, but you won't have that in the future. So you need to think of other ways in which you're going to continue to develop. These might be things about your teaching. So, observing other teachers. When you get into a new school, go and ask if you can observe other teachers. If they say no, you probably didn't want to watch them anyway. Trying to teach a range of classes. If your director of studies says, would you like to teach the exam class? Even if you feel a bit nervous about it, say yes. Try to teach a range of classes. That will really help you to develop as a teacher. Reading things. Following blogs. There are lots of good blogs that you could follow which will really give you an insight into different people's contexts and give you ideas for your own. Reading professional magazines, English Teaching Professional, Modern English Teacher, both of these are very good, but there are others as well. Journals, of course, online things. Things which involve teachers, so attending a conference. This is a great way to develop and to give you a lot of new ideas and a lot of motivation. Conferences in person, of course, can be quite expensive, but there are lots now of online conferences which are free, where you can interact with other teachers from all over the world and hear great speakers talk about interesting things. So that's a really useful thing to do. Join a teachers association. ITEFL's the biggest one, but there might be local teachers associations in the country where you work, which will also have continuing professional development sessions. Log into a webinar. Again, there's lots and lots and lots of opportunities to do this on the web. Macmillan do webinars, ITEFL do webinars. There are lots and lots of others that you can log into. The vast majority of them are free. So that's a great thing. And you can usually listen to the recordings afterwards as well. So it's nice if you go live because you get a chance to interact with other people, but you can also listen to them in the recorded version. #ELT-chat is a great way to meet other teachers. Every Wednesday there's a live chat on Twitter for an hour. If you look up #ELT-chat on Google, you'll find it. And again, they have their archives from previous chats, so there's lots of useful information there as well, and it's a very friendly kind of atmosphere there. So all of these things are ways in which you could continue to develop after the course. Some things that people often have problems with. I have to say, as I say, this is the assignment that most people manage best, probably, have the least problems with, but some problems that can happen. People don't choose good areas to focus on. Remember that you want, a balance of your strengths and your weaknesses. So, and think about things which are important developmentally for you. This is probably the most common reason for resubmission, is that you just describe what happens in your classroom and you don't evaluate. So you need to think about what happened and why and what you can change in the future and how this had an impact on your practice. So you do need to do evaluation, not just description. And also perhaps not identifying how you'll continue to develop. So you do need to think about what will happen after the course and what you will do to continue to develop. So all that's left really is to wish you good luck. I hope it goes well, and by this time you'll be towards the end of the course, so good luck with the rest of your teaching. If you found this video helpful, then there are lots of other training videos at elt-training.com. I've made other videos here which are relevant to the other assignments, and there's a Grammar Made Easy course on my site which you can access if you want to have a look at that. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put up a new video every month. Thanks very much. Hopefully see you next month. Bye bye.